Video game movies have a pretty bad reputation, and justifiably so. There are a truckload of terrible video game movies. What I find fascinating is that these terrible movies are terrible in varying ways. But I still hold out hope that a video game movie can be good. The Assassin's Creed movie came out recently, so I decided to give it a watch. I regret that decision. Given the track record of video game movie adaptations, I suspected that this movie could be a mess, but it exceeded my expectations in how awful it was. This movie isn't just a bad adaptation, it's flawed in very fundamental ways as a film, to the point that there were a couple times that I wanted to walk out of the theater. Before I get into the meat of this movie, I want to give some context, something the movie doesn't do. The Assassin's Creed games are popular stealth and action games by Ubisoft, where the player controls an assassin in various periods in history through the memories retrieved from the subconscious of some guy in the present. Who that is becomes less and less important. The modern day plot stuff is the weakest part of the series, I think. While I haven't played the more recent games, I have enjoyed the gameplay of the ones I have played. They are mostly enjoyable, well-made games, with exceptions. The movie, astonishingly enough, takes place in the same universe and follows some guy. Oh, he had a name. It was... I got this. It was... Hang on, let me look this up. Calum! That's it. Sorry about that. Yeah, the characters are pretty awful all around. The movie has a good cast, including Michael Fassbender and Jeremy Irons, but they all phone it in. I can't say I blame them. The script gives them almost nothing to work with. Dialogue in the movie is surprisingly sparse, and that is a big detriment, because it is so hard to follow what is happening, or understand why it is happening. A lot of the dialogue we do get, particularly from the British lady, is cringeworthy. They try to make everything sound edgy and more cerebral than it ought to be. Instead, it's just frustrating. Let's go back to that word, context. Context gives the audience a frame of reference to understand what is happening and why it is happening. With it, we are informed about the characters and their motivations. Without it, we are left bored and confused. Take Star Wars A New Hope, that's a classic example. You can also use Star Wars The Force Awakens because it follows the same beats. Right at the start, we have our context. The evil Empire is on the trail of the rebels. The Empire is huge and heavily armed, while the rebels are at a major disadvantage. In those opening scenes, you learn the villain's motives and the hero's goals. I guess I should say spoiler alert here, skip to this time code, but this movie's story is so bad it doesn't really matter. The beginning of the Assassin's Creed movie is one of the worst I've ever seen. We start off with text giving a brief synopsis of the struggle between the Templar Knights and the Assassins. They tell us. They don't show us. Even the first Assassin's Creed game did a better job at this. We were given a scene showing a confrontation between the Assassins and the Templar. In the movie, we have a scene of assassins in 15th century Spain making weapons and talking about something. Then we jump to Baja, California and see some kid failing to do a BMX stunt. Followed by the kid finding his dead mom, his dad being creepy, and some army guys show up, and then he's an adult in prison. Who is this kid? Why is he in prison now? Do we care that he's in prison? This is our main character, by the way, and at this point we know nothing about him or his perspective. There's no context for any of those scenes, and we won't have any for quite a while. This is a major flaw in the movie and makes so much of the movie boring to watch. Since I've played some of the Assassin's Creed games, I knew the gist of how the story would go. Michael Fassbender's character would be abducted by the Abstergo Corporation, hooked up to the Animus machine to comb the memories of his ancestors to find something. Without that knowledge, the scenes following the prison scene are disjointed, hard to follow, and awkwardly shot and edited. Here's another thing that is massively frustrating, how indirect everyone is. Because of the lack of dialogue and the wooden performances, we don't get a feel for any of the characters. Especially the protagonist. I can't believe I'm going to say this, Desmond Miles is a better character than Calum. Remember how I brought up the scenes in the beginning of the movie with Calum as a child? That's all the foundation we have for him as a character for most of the movie. What are his goals? What is he like? Why should we like him? He just comes off as a violent misanthrope without any redeeming qualities. He doesn't change or grow. He pretty much remains a creepy jerk for the whole movie. His lack of character makes the theoretically emotional scenes with him have no weight. I don't care that he reunites with his dad and spares his life, or sees his ghost mom. The movie takes so long to even become comprehensible. It's because of this very painful, incoherent start that the rest of the movie becomes a slog. At no point do I care about any of the characters or their goals. I don't care if Calum gets his freedom. He's kind of a violent psychopath, and nothing in the movie tells me otherwise. I don't care if British Lady cures the world of violence, or if the evil old man and old lady destroy free will. This is even detrimental to the action scenes. We do get some neat looking action scenes, the better of which take place in the 15th century. Unfortunately, we barely know who any of these characters are, and the movie keeps cutting to show the present day main character mimicking the ancestors' movements in the present. It's disjointed and makes fight scenes really awkward. If we don't care about what is happening, or like the characters involved in the action, then the action scenes become boring. Overall, this movie fails hard. There isn't even anything funny bad like in other well-known video game movie fiascos. It's just plain boring. No one is likable and nothing is fun. I don't need the movie to be full of quips and joking characters, but a little levity would have made this movie less of an arduous slog. Even the games had some light moments. It is a completely joyless experience that I can't recommend to anyone. I need something fun after this. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all next time with something a bit more on the bright side. It's the start of a new year after all.